right here on Sactown Sports. Adam Schefter reporting that Brock Purdy has a completely torn UCL, and he is going to be out for 6 months.
You haven't even recovered from the hangover of that awful football game yesterday, if you're a 49ers fan, and now you get this news?
It's just absolutely brutal.
You ever gotten a second wave hangover? Like it's the afternoon, and you're like, oh, man, I feel sick all over again. That's what this is like for 49ers fans today.
Yeah, like as if yesterday wasn't bad enough. Right. Now you get hit by this. But I think some people, felt like this was at least a possibility, if not probability. We played for you to start this show, Brock Purdy's reaction yesterday after the injury and what he told the media. And he said to the media that he felt pain everywhere. And it came out yesterday that it was going to be a UCL. It was just how bad was the UCL injury. And obviously it's bad enough that he's going to be out 6 months. It's completely torn. And for people jumping in their cars right now or joining us on YouTube right now, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140, give us that thumbs up.
My camera angle's on point today.
For people jumping in, this now leads you to August, right? The end of January. He's out 6 months. That brings you to the beginning of August. He's going to have to go through an entire rehab process. And, part of that, I'm sure, is going to be the 6-month timeline. He might be throwing after, 4 months, 5 months. But he's going to have to jump in and kind of get acclimated once again. And who knows when he's going to be ready. Do the Niners slow play this injury? But for Purdy himself, Rami, this is brutal, man. This guy was one of the great stories of the NFL season. He is somebody that nobody expected much of anything from. He makes the team. Then he ends up being the starting quarterback.
That right there was unlikely.
Yeah.
Like we can't even just skip right over makes the team. That right there was unlikely for that dude. Just that part. Like they thought we have a guy that we can stash on the practice squad and maybe develop into a reliable backup someday. Don't forget, Nate Sudfeld was given good backup money, like not big quarterback money, but good backup money to come here and back up Trey Lance. And then the whole picture changed when they decided to bring Jimmy G back in the fold. And at that point, they could have just gone with Trey Lance and Jimmy G. Plenty of teams will go with just 2 quarterbacks. Not only did they not go with just 2 quarterbacks, they went with 3 and cut Sudfeld to stick with Brock Purdy as the number 3 quarterback because they thought that much of him, and they thought somebody would take him and put him on their active roster. Him just making the roster was a long shot when he reported to Santa Clara.
Yeah, not many Mr. Irrelevance make rosters. Not many of those guys make it anywhere above, the practice squad. So, I mean, this is just really tough for Purdy because we're going to now look at, an 8-game sample or whatever it was, if that. You all have to kind of put the timing together of how much he actually played yesterday. And I mean, this is somebody who has played under 10 NFL games. He was on the precipice of helping his team get to the Super Bowl. Many people over the last week or two have been reporting that Purdy was going to be QB1 in 2023, no matter what, that Trey Lance was going to be at least his backup, if not traded out of San Francisco. And now if you're Purdy, it has to be so disheartening to do what you have done, to get to the point that you got to now have this happen. And we're talking about somebody who doesn't have necessarily great arm strength to begin with. That's not one of his traits that you would brag about to NFL scouts, right, and to teams and say, oh, man, that dude can sling it.
Maybe this is a rookie of the year situation.
But you're right. When you look at it, yeah, hopefully for him. I mean, they do say that UCL injuries and Tommy John surgeries and all that stuff, guys come back throwing harder. Yeah. So who knows? But he's also playing a physical, violent game, unlike baseball. So this is a very difficult situation to be handed. Very difficult situation to be handed. And on YouTube, David Neal says brutal. Cole G as Purdy is QB3 again. Feel bad for him. TCG says feels so bad for Purdy after what he accomplished. Yeah, I mean, I think, what he had brought to this team was really a sense of comfort because the Jimmy G stuff always hovered above, and everybody was always so worried about Jimmy G, and rightfully so, with his injury history and, the lack of trust in the past in Jimmy in post seasons, all those kinds of things. Jimmy gets hurt. You move on to Purdy. I don't think anybody believed in Trey Lance after his injury again and the lack of football that he's played.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this calming sense, Rami, I think, within this organization and from fans to say, all right, well, we didn't know what we had in Lance. It didn't look great. Jimmy G again is hurt. Maybe we fell into something here with Brock Purdy, and now you're back to square one. You're back to sitting there and saying, well, okay, well, you got Lance, who was a complete unknown. Jimmy G's a free agent. And now you got Purdy, who was supposed to be your QB1 with a torn UCL.
What is going on with 49ers quarterbacks, man? Like, is there...
You want to talk about JJ's juju. I mean, he's a Niners fan. I don't know if we got to send him down there to hang out in the facility to help this.
It's the Kaepernick curse, man.
The curse of Kaepernick.
The Kaepernick curse, brother.
Is that a thing? Or did you just make that up
No,
right
that's
now?
a thing, man.
Oh, really?
That's a Jay's thing.
I mean... You look at it, and since then, yeah, they haven't had the greatest of luck at quarterbacks, man. Yeah, I mean, this is we're just getting this news now as well, Nick, and I'm sure the 49ers are also right now just throwing every idea up at the wall about what do we do about the quarterback position now.
Think about it this way. So Purdy's contract, right? For 2022, it was $705,000. Next year was set to be $870, and 2024 was set to be $985. This completely changes, Rami. This completely changes your offseason plan and what you might be capable of doing. When you look at this, you go off the timeline. Again, if it's 6 months, he's back in the beginning of August, which means he's going to miss the entire offseason program. I mean, I imagine you have to, if you're John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, start thinking about contingencies at quarterback. But beyond that, the team. I mean, you've got a lot of free agents coming up. You've got to sign Nick Bosa. And if you could have walked into 2023 with a guaranteed Brock Purdy as your quarterback making $800,000, you could then allocate all that other money to the guys on this team, signing them to extensions. And then going into free agency, you've got McGlinchey coming up. You've got the Bosa decision. You've got a lot of things that you've got to figure out. And now you thought, before yesterday, I think if you're John Lynch, you thought we have a lot of wiggle room because our most likely QB1 is going to be making less than $1 million next year.
Literally as cheap as you can get at the quarterback position. And I talked before the season, Nick, when we were talking about handing the reins over to Trey Lance, about the fact that this is a team that's right in the heart of a Super Bowl window. And those aren't things that you want to just throw away, you know what I mean? Or even put at risk of handing it over to a rookie or an inexperienced quarterback. And now they're right back in the position of trying to figure out, how do we capitalize on and get the most out of this year in the middle of a championship window? Because take Joe Burrow, for example. When he went down in his rookie year, they still weren't in a contending window. So they looked at that and just went, well, we just push everything back a year now in terms of when we're competitive and contenders. 49ers don't have that luxury.
No.
They are in the middle of it right now. And whenever you're in a Super Bowl window, it's waning. Like every day that passes is another day where you're closer to the end of that Super Bowl window and the chance of it going to waste. So this is a huge decision at the most important position in the sport that yet again the 49ers have to make this offseason with the news of the Brock Purdy injury.
916-339-1140 is the text line. The number, of course, is 1-800-920-1140. YouTube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. I know it's not happy content we're having today, but if you would like to help us out, give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up, and as Rami said, get on the couch and try to, vent, talk this thing out.
We're here for you.
But we continue with the news from Adam Schefter of ESPN. If you're just joining us, Brock Purdy will be out for at least 6 months with a complete tear of his UCL in the throwing elbow.